okay with you hating Trump. Why aren't you okay with me liking him? If you could just look in the mirror and answer that question, liberals, you would feel so much better. Why does it bother you that people like Trump? Perhaps there's a large role in your dissatisfaction. It might be your own personal resentments. You may play a large role emotionally in how you feel about Trump. Maybe if you get over that, you'll spend less time and effort being so miserable.
Do you have an answer to that, Jessica?
Why do I care that you like him?
I don't think she cares.
I mean, do you have a theory about why liberals care so much that other people like Trump?
Because he's like a completely morally bankrupt person that's implementing.
But why should you care that I like him? Why
well, I have accepted that you like him, but I think it's hard for people when they care about someone.
Whoa.
To say,
this is the perfect thing. Why do they care? Tell me why. What's underneath?
Okay. Well, care leads to voting, and then voting leads to bad policies.
Why can I not be a friend of yours if you like Trump?
If he was your friend, I'd be much more chill about it. But because you like him, he's my president.
Well, I think she's misdiagnosed. It has nothing to do with morality. You don't care about morality.
Of course we do.
Your party doesn't support standards of morality. Anything. You can do drugs. You can be homeless. You can hit people, rape people, let other murderers into the country. You could do all kinds of things. They don't judge.
They're going to let the son of Sam. You're going to let the son of Sam out of jail. The son of Sam.
You guys apologize to a guy who tried to shoot the president.
Keep the son of Sam
with morality.
Judge said that.
Don't talk to morality. Don't talk to Bill Clinton about morality.
You guys got evangelicals to support a guy who has cheated on every single wife that he's had.
But who cares if I like him?
I said I don't care. I have accepted
why do your peers? I'm doing it, Scott Jennings. Get your finger out of my face. Why do liberals care that we like him? It's because they cannot get themselves emotionally out of the way, and it bothers them. They know that they might be wrong. The sunk cost of hating somebody
because it
rips
has
you apart.
electoral consequences.
Not everybody thinks that way.
Oh, I don't.
We don't walk around and go, "What's the polling say?
Well,
What's the electoral college?"
Then why are we looking at any video of Obama? What do you care? That suit was fly, and just let him have his stupid museum.
I like the suit.
You did not. You definitely.
I love the suit.
I
own a tan suit. Darn it!
You did not criticize him for that at the podium.
I wasn't even on the 5 back then.
On Waters
and I definitely would not have.
Roll the tape.
Aggressive strategy, but the media built this up pretty high. You know, this is a big test whether he still had clout.
Right, and so they were hoping the answer was no. And I think what the Trump political machine showed is they still have money, they still have organization, and they're really good at beating other Republicans.
They are.
So will they be as good at beating Democrats in the fall? We'll see. Possibly. The Democrats don't have as much money, and they don't have as much organization as he has. So I think the Republicans benefit certainly from having him be in the lead. And I know it's kind of frustrating sometimes for the White House to say, well, why aren't these guys pulling their weight? They should be out there talking about the big, beautiful bill. But I mean, the other thing is, though, President Trump dominates the headlines. He wants to dominate the headlines. He blots out the sun. And so they can't really complain also that they're not out there because the president drives every media cycle over and over again. One thing I'm really interested in is how unpopular, both parties are unpopular. Congress is unpopular, everything's unpopular. But the Democrats have this unpopularity problem, and how they figure out how to deal with what we were talking about in the A block, which is the rift, even though Obama doesn't think it really exists, but you have far left progressives looking like they're edging out establishment Republicans. And does that mean, establishment Democrats, then does that mean it gives Republicans a better chance to have better margins, or at least certainly keep the Senate?
Jessica, aren't you glad we brought back competition?
Trump won by 19 points. Does not seem like the own that the Republicans think that it is, and we'll see what happens if it's even a Trump plus 10 state, for instance. And also, I think one of those seats that now has a super MAGA Republican is actually a swing district, so we'll see if that ends up hurting them longer term. But I get it, it's the immediate dopamine hit, and you could play, on loop crying libs or whatever. he's intervened in redistricting quite a bunch, and he has lost on that front quite a bunch. Virginia and California lost on Prop 50, then tried to use his DOJ to politicize it, gets up to SCOTUS, and SCOTUS says, actually, no, they can use the map that the people legitimately chose. It was a ballot measure. That's how democracy works. And I get it. You got to put your best foot forward. You want to be in campaign mode. But this victory lap against the backdrop of approval ratings in the low 30s, the war in Iran is now more unpopular than the Vietnam War.
I choose this segment to do on the 5. Just saying. I'm not all excited about it.
Do you want to switch for the fastest?
We're just doing what we're told to do. Paul.
Okay.
You are
Do what you're told to do, Paul.
A couple things here. This is a double-edged sword, because if Trump is the party, what happens post-Trump? Right? You got to consider that. And, you always hear, well, there's going to be Trumpism post-Trump. Is that possible? Because the guy is such a tsunami of personality. And is there another one out there? You hear Vance, you hear Rubio, et cetera. And, that's a debate for 3 years from now. But the bottom line is, if it takes Donald Trump to get you over the finish line in races that matter, then you got to say to yourself, well, what happens when he's not around, because he's human like everybody else. I think what's going on here is the following. MAGA, in most people's mind, comes down to a common denominator of just a couple of things. And I think primary among them is safety, the border, and then, of course, economic conservatism, and they look to the market. And that's why Trump's always invoking the market. It's a very shorthand way of looking at things. And I think the Indiana results are resultant of a current frustration on the right and in the party. And I think one of the places it resides is the SAVE Act. There are a number of things that the right really, really wants and feels like they're not being heard. And so whether it's redistricting, et cetera, these things are all the usual political machinations. They're just getting to the second power. But I think there are things here that the Republican Party sits back, the electorate, and says, we had the House, we had the Senate, we had the presidency. Where are the things that we want? And some of them have not been delivered. And so when you see Indiana's leaders say, no, we're not going to partake of that, it made them quick, like shorthand villains. And I think that's why it went the way it went. Now, what that means for the larger electorate, we're going to have to find out in the midterms, because there's only one thing less popular than Congress writ large these days, and that is the Democratic Party. So there's numbers all over the place. Let's see what happens. If Iran is resolved, the numbers come down relative to the price of oil, the economy spikes, and I think that's what they're counting on. I think you're going to see a very different situation in November than you have right now.